Alright, just the one box and some stuff that I set up earlier in the week. But it should make for a pretty good update. Especially since 7 DVDs is, I think that's 7 items. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items. Is lighter than I remember when we got these. Why don't we turn this pile upside down? Start going through it. To begin with, we've got Fate Kaleid liner, Kaleid, Prisma Illya. For anybody who's watching this and isn't familiar with what this is, it's basically a Magical Girl spin-off of some of the Fate Stay Night characters. At least that's how I understand it. I could be wrong, but I'm fairly certain I've got that correct and summarized correctly. I don't know if it's a good representation or a bad one, but I have it on DVD now, so I'll be able to find out eventually. This is probably this week's #1 curiosity for me. So, back of the Blu-ray, it's dubbed. All 11 episodes on 2 discs, region A only. So we can see front and back, they're fairly similar. So, DVD version. We got the 2 discs. Blu-ray version also has 2 discs. With it looks like the same artwork, of course, since the DVD version has the flip version in it. I don't know. Kind of hard to show both of these, but I think that's probably good enough. Next on the list, we've got Stella Women's Academy High School Division Class C, 13 episodes, 3 discs, complete collection. This is the DVD version. Subtitles English, audio Japanese. For some reason this looks smaller than usual. The Blu-ray version I think is scheduled to come out maybe even as far down the line as November. I'm not sure because I pre-ordered both for some reason, even though the Blu-ray version won't ship for a long time. Not sure what to think about it, but looks like it has a lot of plot. Ha ha ha, maybe not. Maybe looks like it based on that picture. Guess I need to take a quick peek at this one to make sure what I feel like showing, because this is a hentai DVD that's been re-released, and it's a fairly risque front, but let me open it inside here. That's got to be a very unexciting inside. Not a problem with that. After all, this is a re-release, and the advantage for me of them re-releasing this is, I guess the back's okay. I think those are censorship as opposed to actual imagery. But the advantage is stuff being re-released definitely gives me a good incentive to catch up on old titles, because I haven't been doing a lot of that. I mean, that's why the Blu-ray version of Moribito, which I mentioned last week, shipped. Since I pulled it out, we might as well just pull it out and take a peek at it. Because this was released on Blu-ray when Moribito was originally released on DVD. It's just that at the time I wasn't collecting Blu-ray, so I only collected it on DVD. It had some of the weirdest DVD cases ever. But the Blu-rays have been on my list to repurchase for a long time, and since it's been re-released, region A only, since it's been re-released here, I see, there we go, disc 2, disc 3, you know, this is a good chance for me to catch up on that title as well. So You can see there's 2 catch-up titles here that came from being released, and then of course we've got Gatchaman Crowds Complete Collection. And I know this one was previously scheduled for for slightly earlier release, maybe like I guess it could have been 2 months ago, but it got delayed, and I was fine with that because I guess that would have put it in July when, oh my gosh, come on. July, which was a very expensive month. All I know is, it's here now, it's out now, and I think people talked about it quite a bit, so I'm definitely curious. It's English dubbed, Japanese subtitles. What's with some of these Hentai titles just refusing to be opened? Annoying. It's reminding me of last week, except this week I had some really well-behaved titles. So, being able to open those well-behaved titles in conjunction with dealing with these badly behaved ones. Let's see, the Blu-ray is region A only. Now let's start taking a peek at the DVDs, the discs. I have absolutely no idea what this series is actually about. The name itself reminds me more of the old Gatchaman, but I don't think it has anything to do with that. So as you can see, this time disc 1 and 3 are the same, which I guess is kind of advantageous because the image on disc 3 of the DVD and 2 of the Blu-ray is a bit more eye-catching. Next up, we've got HAL, unless that's supposed to be pronounced H-A-L. Artificial Love Story. Once again, starring something named after IBM with each letter subtracted by 1. Sort of like 2001: A Space Odyssey, or maybe just a 2001: A Space Odyssey reference. Yeah, it feels like there's something in here. Like they did this for me? No, what the hell is this? Is this alternative covers? Blu-ray covers? Okay, let's set these down and go through them one at a time. So first we got this. The back side, that looks like alternative Blu-ray covers, I think. Which is very reminiscent of the Japanese release of Time of Eve. And then last but not least, interesting. It's not very common for Funimation to do something like that. I'm guessing one of these is a DVD. Okay, it's a movie. That says DVD there. I'm trying to find the name on this pink one. And I can see it's right there, but I can't read it. Not that that's necessarily bad. So, of course, audio, English, Japanese. Region A only, unfortunately, for people who only have Region B players and want to import it. And then we've got this front. So let's see. I guess the way I want to put it back in there is probably like so. Because I'm guessing that's how it was in there in the first place. Next up, we have Star Blazers 2199 Volume 4. And even though I haven't watched any of this, both the older series that was... Oh, Bread Under... Was it Bread Under? Yeah, because the Japanese series is Battleship Yamato or something like that. So I don't know why. I'm assuming this is based off of the old series called Star Blazers in some way, but not entirely knowing for certain. I'm just guessing because it kind of looks like it's got some of that look. Okay, we've got postcards there, but let's open the Blu-ray version as well. So disc arts look the same, and it looks like they both have the same poster thingies in them. So let's poke through these. Something I assume I've done in the past, but I'll be honest, I don't remember. It's just the three. And again, having not watched the series, I'm not quite sure who these characters are, so I can't really comment on them too much. But I guess a lot of the idea here is those of you who are definitely fans of the series get to see it, be excited, know whether or not you're going to purchase it, all the good stuff. And the last DVD is Cybersix, the complete series. Which again, I don't know anything about. This is a Discotheque Eastern Star release. Get the impression this could have been something along those lines. Maybe I should look. No subtitles, audio, English language. So this might be dubbed only. And region 1. And my guess is that the kind of titles that Discotheque tends to target, Eastern Star, them, is a series that some people probably think should have been released on DVD and got skipped over. Things like Fist of the North Star, which is an old classic. Lots of things that were released on VHS or Laserdisc, etc. I mean, they picked up Unico, which is one of my childhood favorite movies. All right, Cybersix. 2 discs. Pretty straightforward release. And I mean, I'd have to put the disc in a player to make sure it is the way it is. But there you go. This week's pretty reasonable anime DVD collection update. Not bad. Now, as for stuff I've watched, let's see. I guess that comes down to 4 things, doesn't it? First of all, I finished watching Oremo 2, and it didn't end the way I was thinking I had heard it had maybe ended. See, there could have been an element of that where I was mixing up what people wanted to happen at the end versus what actually happened at the end. And since I realized they were talking about the end of the series and I left that immediately, it only left an impression on me, and it looks like it was a jarbled impression, and I think that's fine because that's better than having it completely spoiled and not being able to watch it. Overall, again, my big problem with Oremo 2 is that the sister is a pretty abusive person, and one of her friends is pretty abusive, and then a lot of the other people are okay, but kind of sidelined a bit, and sometimes bad in different ways, but not completely intolerable, I guess. But oh well, I finished it, and wasn't my forte, but you know, not every anime can. And I think that's part of the reason why the series itself only has a so-so rating, because there's going to be a lot of people out there, I can tell, would watch it and they would absolutely love it, because there's a lot of things about it that are actually pretty smart and clever, and self-referential, like an entire story arc in the first series about about a character in the show having an individual work of theirs potentially made into an anime, and you kind of watch that sort of thing and you wonder how much of that sort of thing is actually reflective of what happened with the show itself being adapted, or maybe some other work that the author did. And that's kind of an interesting thing. And part of the reason I was talking about really wanting to watch the second season, even though I'd watched the first season and it had pissed me off so much, was because I knew that going forward, the second season had a lot of potential to start mixing together character interactions who had only barely interacted before. And it brought a couple of issues that the series brought, had boiling in the background up. And so it's definitely not the sort of thing that's just completely devoid of anything interesting. This is probably why it, again, is about a 7.5 on Mal, which pretty much means a lot of people really liked it. It's probably solid enough that you won't feel like it's missing anything super important. You might be an outlier in that regard, but there's a pretty good chance. And there's definitely going to be people out there who find it to be something that they really, really like. I think it's somewhere around the same rating as Outlaw Star or something like that. But I'm not sure what more I could say about it without talking too spoilerish. In fact, I might have already. So after that, I watched Watamote, and I could definitely tell why people had trouble staying with it. I think if I were to boil down the issue, it's because it sets up our main characters having a problem, and to a degree, we don't want them to have that problem. Not necessarily as at the beginning thing, but as we want them to find their way out of it, or to start finding a way out of it, or to try and fail and not get out of it. But for the anime, it's really just the sort of thing where the main character kind of keeps themselves in their place. I mean, you could almost call it trying, but it's the kind of trying where it's failing because they're kind of deluding themselves about reality. And so it doesn't have as much of a humorous edge as it maybe could have. For some people, it's going to be meaningful. I know that watching it while highly sleep deprived left me in a state the next morning wondering if I should maybe never talk to anybody ever again, thinking I'd do the same sort of self-delusion sorts of things, and not really applying that to situations where they necessarily apply. I guess for comparison, if you've ever played One Night Ultimate Werewolf, which I played for the first time over the weekend, it's kind of like that, where you play that game for the first time and you have a lot of fun, but you walk away from that and you're not quite sure which drivers are really wolves or minions or other things, because your thinking has to be a little warped because it's just so intense in the trying to read and understand and predict things. And Watamote kind of felt a little like that on the unmotivational side, where I just kind of felt like maybe not ever doing anything ever again, but it was very weird in that. And then after that, it was just, I got used to it. It was happening. And honestly, I guess the problem is that it finally throws us a little bone near the end of the series. And for most of us, we wanted something like that in the beginning of the series, first couple of episodes or something like that. And maybe the original manga goes well beyond what these had, and maybe what they gave us was what they expected. It's definitely not bad per se, but I can understand why for a lot of people they fire up Watamote and they just stop watching because they're cringing too much, because again, most of her problems are things she's caused for herself. And unlike a lot of other people in her situation, we want to sympathize for her, but we're having trouble, and that's where the cringe comes from. Because we've seen plenty of anime where
a main character locks themselves away and doesn't interact with other people correctly, but they understand that's what they're doing. I think it's sort of like Konata from Loki Star, except that, you know, she's obviously not a friendless, completely ignored person, because, you know, she understands, even though she's being this complete weirdo, she's embracing it as opposed to trying to pretend that her weirdo-ness is actually an indication of how normal she is, and that she's just super normal compared to everybody else, and you know, crazy stuff. So, once again, that probably explains why Watamote is not at a "this is awesome" level. It's okay. This one's definitely going to be more, people are going to watch it and they're going to hate it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because like I said, we want the main character to succeed. And we don't want to laugh at the main character when they fail, even if we do. And we just don't want to keep watching somebody torture themselves that way. That's my opinion, at least. Yes, that's right. I was forgetting what was next on the list of stuff I watched. I watched Kabuki Monogatari, which is the next story arc within Monogatari's second series. And I have to say that, you know, I was looking forward to it because I've always found Araragi's and Hachikuchi's dialogue to be some of the more amusing that I found in there. I mean, it's thoughtful but somewhat more absurd, I think, than a lot of the others. And the way they introduce, you know, the way they meet each other at the very beginning of Bakemonogatari is kind of a good representation of it, where it's just like, they both kind of know it's absurd, but they've embraced the absurdness to meta levels and super meta levels, and I've kind of enjoyed their interactions because of that. And so I was watching this one with that in mind, and well, I think well, okay, so the first story arc didn't have that for reasons I'm not going to talk about, but this one had some of it, but surprisingly it had a lot of something else, which, you know, I don't really want to talk about too much, because what the series does, it needs to be a surprise. But I have to say that ultimately it was quite spectacular and fun to watch. Definitely looking forward to more Monogatari, because I guess next one is Nadeko again, or like at least that's what the story arc is conceptually themed around. Okay, and so I finished that, and I started watching, hold on, I can't remember its name, but I have it right here. It's that Kinmoza anime, this one. And it's been okay. I think the biggest problem is that with the Labor Day weekend, I've kind of felt like not doing much, so I've been in a more video gaming mood, but not enough of a video gaming mood to actually play video games. So I've been more of a zombie, really, and thus I only got a couple of episodes in. There's also an issue where it's very cute and amusing concept, but for some reason the jokes are not synchronizing with me, I guess. I mean, it's the sort of thing where I think about, you know, what makes something like Azumanga Daioh or School Days make me laugh, when something like this makes me feel like I'm missing a joke, or like the anime tried to tell a joke but maybe didn't tell it very well. It's hard to say because, you know, joke telling aside, it does go for the moe blob element. I don't know, because I think I'm only like 3 episodes into it. And then there's a question of how much I'll watch tonight, given that if my brother does come over, we're going to be watching some Steins Gate, because he needs to watch some Steins Gate, and it's going to be hard to not think about Steins Gate, or the possibility of Steins Gate. Oh, I don't know. So, other things. I'm trying to think if there's any noteworthy advances in any of the Kickstarters. I know Under the Dog is getting close to its ending, and it's not quite at where it'll be funding-wise, but they did say that it might still get funding even if it doesn't make all the funding from the Kickstarter in the first place. So I'm quite curious about that and what's going to happen. That should happen in a couple of days if you wanted to put in $60 so you could get a Blu-ray DVD copy yourself. Well, now's the time to do it in case it does make it. Although I do think they said that if people want to order additionals, they can order additionals at cost. And I'm not entirely sure what that means. My guess is that if you're getting it and you're like, oh my gosh, my friend from college I haven't seen in a billion years would absolutely love this, and he's coming into town sometime 2 years from now after this gets made, so I should make sure there's a copy for him. You know, I'm wondering if it's something like that, where you're like, oh, I could just really use 2 copies of this. Don't know the details. Just know that they said something about that. Other than that, I know Santa Company is finally making a little progress, although in this case this was less of an update, more that they contacted the people who donated enough that they wanted to make sure the names are right for the creating of the end credits, because people who paid, I think, $500 or more, and I was one of those people, get their names in the credits. And so that means that even though they've been quiet, they've been working. I know Bubblegum Crisis updates pretty often to tell us where the packaging's going, how it's looking, when they find interesting errors that are actually in the original Japanese copies and things like that. And so that one's maybe a month or 2 out. I can't remember if they said it was late November or something like that. But it feels like a lot of these Kickstarters are finally getting close. Here's hoping. I guess that's about everything. I guess I did mention that the Blu-ray version of Stella Woman's Academy I did pre-order. I also pre-ordered something called Blood Lad. I can't remember because I've gotten a billion of those advertisements and I should remember. That's shipping a little late, so it didn't make it today, obviously. And I know the Love Live thing that came out today, a street date of today, arrives tomorrow. So those are on order, or those are on track. And we're otherwise, I guess that's everything I can think of that's anime DVD related. So y'all have a nice week.